One of the more interesting storylines from last season was that of Cam Thomas, as in his second season, Thomas really struggled to see the court consistently. However, at the end of the Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant era in Brooklyn, Thomas was given more shine on the offensive side of the ball and did not disappoint. Despite this, after an absurd scoring surge, Thomas was put right back on the bench where he racked up multiple DNPs for the remainder of the season. This year, though, it seems like the Nets have finally come to their senses and have been giving Thomas the minutes he deserves, and it's paid off very well. Regardless, I feel like not enough people are talking about what Thomas has been doing on the offensive side of the ball, or at the very least, they don't know how he's doing it. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down Cam Thomas's abilities as a scorer, as well as his all-around game, to try and determine how good of a player he can be for the Nets in the long run. If you're new to the channel and enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the halfway point of the NBA season, and any help is greatly appreciated. With that being said, let's get into it. Like I said, Cam Thomas had a pretty damn ridiculous scoring streak last season. From January 30th to March 1st, Thomas averaged 22 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists, while shooting 46% from the field and 42% from 3 and 5 attempts. During this run, Thomas also had 3 40-plus point games in a row, which, for a second-year player who was taken 27th overall the year prior, is almost unheard of. In this time, Thomas was playing about 27 minutes per game. However, in the final 19 games of the season, Thomas was getting about 13 minutes a night and racked up 8 DNPs in the process. Now, you may be asking yourself why he was all of a sudden pulled from the rotation, and honestly, I can't give you an answer. Sure, he doesn't do much outside of score the basketball, but the volume and efficiency in which he does it more than makes up for his other downfalls. Despite this, though, Thomas has been getting similar minutes to that of his scoring stretch from last season, playing about 33 minutes per game through his first 6 games. In this time, Thomas is averaging 26 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists, while shooting 47% from the field and 31% from 3 on 5.8 attempts. Obviously, it's an incredibly small sample size, but given what we've seen from him in the past, it's pretty clear that he's capable of scoring at a high volume on great efficiency. The question is, can he do it sustainably? Realistically, I really think he can. Thomas is going to have his rough moments like he already has this season, but overall, I feel like he's proven enough for me to confidently say he can consistently average anywhere from 20 to 25 points a game on at least above league average efficiency. Now, for the modern NBA, Thomas is a really unique scorer, as he doesn't take a whole lot of threes, but he really loves his mid-range buckets. Not only does he take a hilarious amount of mid-range attempts, but he's really efficient from that range as well. While it's too early to scope things out now, last season Thomas took 53% of his total shots from the mid-range according to Cleaning the Glass, which was in the 100th percentile. While he only hit 41% of his shots from this range, which is like 1% below league average, the number of attempts more than make up for this, especially once you consider that he hit 53% of his mid-range attempts in his rookie season and is currently shooting 48% from there this season. Thomas is an elite shot creator for his age and NBA experience, and according to Cleaning the Glass, he gets assisted on just 35% of his mid-range attempts, compared to Beyond the Arc, where he gets assisted on 67% of his attempts. This comes from his creativity with the ball in his hands and the way he's able to identify and attack mismatches when a big or even a wing is forced to pick up on him. One of the most effective ways Thomas gets his points is in the pick and roll. While the Nets give him just 7.4 possessions per game with this play, he averages the 13th most points per possession in the entire NBA while shooting 54.8% from the field. His decisiveness on whether to drive or shoot, as well as his overall ability to just hit absurdly difficult shots in the mid-range game, make him a prime candidate for this play. And while his playmaking is not nearly good enough for the Nets to give him a high amount of possessions as a pick-and-roll ball handler, it's still a really big part of his scoring output. A really good example of this comes on this play right here. So Thomas is going to receive a screen from Ben Simmons on the left wing and act as if he's going over the screen to the right. His defender, Josh Green, knowing how much of a threat he can be, is going to look to follow Thomas as much as he can, but before he knows it, Thomas reverses left, shaking him off, and is then picked up by Dwight Powell, who's now stuck with the difficult task of either pressing Thomas and stopping his mid-range game, or dropping and hoping that he doesn't drive. However, Thomas does a bit of both, going right at Powell and hitting a sick floater before he can even react to his move. It's plays like this that really help separate Thomas from other young scoring wings in the NBA. However, he's far from a perfect player even when it comes to scoring the ball. While Thomas is already one of the league's premier mid-range scorers, his abilities from beyond the arc leave much to be desired. Through his first 3 seasons, Thomas is shooting just 31% from 3 on 2.6 attempts per game. Despite this, he had a promising season as a shooter last year, hitting 38% of his shots from deep on 2.3 attempts. And while his attempts were in the 9th percentile for his position, the rate at which he was hitting them was more than acceptable. The start to this season, though, has been a bit of a return to normalcy for Thomas. While he's taking 5.8 threes a game thus far, he's only hitting 31% of them. And Thomas has really had just one good shooting game from 3 this season, so I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to struggle from range as the season goes on. The positive about this is that Thomas really doesn't shoot his foot in the team often with his willingness to shoot threes, and knows that his specialty as a scorer is elsewhere on the floor, which would probably explain why his 3-point attempt percentage is in the 4th percentile for his position this season. Something else Thomas really struggles with offensively is his playmaking. Overall, Thomas has been a massive positive for the Nets on offense, but it feels like if he developed or was even more willing to pass, he would be so much more valuable. On the season, Thomas is averaging just 2 assists to 1 turnover a game, while having a usage rate of 28.5%, which is in the 92nd percentile. Despite this, though, his assist to usage ratio is just 0.38, which is in the 12th percentile. Thomas takes advantages of a lot of mismatches as a scorer, but he really ignores them as a playmaker. Issues such as this is why people question whether or not Thomas can be a key part of the Nets' future. Scoring the ball is important, but so is every other aspect of basketball, and unfortunately, Thomas isn't a positive in any of them. This, in all likelihood, is why Thomas started racking up so many DNPs throughout last season. Should he have? No, the Nets weren't good enough to justify keeping him off the bench, but these problems are a genuine concern. And this is all without mentioning his defense, which is laughably bad. With Cam Thomas on the floor this season, the Nets have a defensive rating of 119, which is in the 12th percentile. Compared to when Thomas is off the floor, the rating goes to 106, which is in the 77th percentile. Not only is Cam Thomas just not a very skilled on-ball defender, lacking the instincts on that side of the ball to play adequate defense, he's also a really bad screen navigator, and when it comes to the off-ball, he has a really nasty habit of falling asleep and leaving his guys wide open, which has cost the Nets big time this year. At least for being such a negative defensive player, Thomas more than makes up for it by already being a top scorer in the league. However, this both hurts his value as a player and to his team significantly. This is why many, including myself, can easily see the Nets potentially trading Thomas this season if he keeps the scoring up. Being the volume scorer Thomas has its perks, but when he brings nothing else to the table, it's hard to incorporate that without messing up the flow of both your offense and defense. And as for the Nets, they're in a really weird spot. The Nets aren't nearly good enough to contend, and they also aren't bad enough to outright miss the playoffs, while also not being young enough to tank. Really, Cam Thomas is their only genuine young asset, and even then, I could still see them trading him. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Nets handle Thomas as the season goes on. I doubt they continue to give him DNPs like last season, but with Jacque Vaughn's willingness to sit him in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if Thomas has a very short leash as the season goes on. Regardless, the tear he's been on to start the season has been really fun to watch, and I'm excited to see how his career plays out. With that being said, I'm going to wrap things up here. If you liked the video, please remember to like and subscribe so I can reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers by the halfway point of the NBA season. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.